Welcome to Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, the show where you get the inside access to the best minds in the game. Each week, Chris has the privilege of chatting with top instructors, legendary players, course architects, and industry insiders. If you're looking to improve your game, gain a new perspective, or just hear some incredible golf stories, you are indeed in the right place.
You see, Chris, let me tell you something, I haven't spoken to a press man in my life that is knowledgeable, seriously, as you are. Never.
You do such a great job. It kind of makes me feel good all of a sudden.
You do so much for the game. You're so kind to all of us that are out there in the game. You know, we need more people like you in the game of golf.
Thank you for pressing play. Now, grab your clubs, step up to the tee, and let's get started. This is Next on the Tee.
Hi, folks, and welcome in to this edition of Next on the Tee, where golf legends live and your game gets better. I'm your host, Chris Mascaro, and it's so great to have you with me. I'm so thankful that you press play and you continue to make Next on the Tee a part of your weekly golf content. Now, on this episode, I've got three guys that I'm really excited that I get to share with you. And it all starts with a three-time winner out on the PGA Tour and a short game guru, Kenny Knox. As you guys know, Kenny's been a long-time friend of this show. He won the 1986 Honda Classic, the 1987 Hardee's Golf Classic, and the 1990 Buick Southern Open. He also set a putting record out on the PGA Tour at the 89 Heritage Classic by only needing 8 putts over 9 holes, 18 putts for 18 holes, and 93 putts for the tournament. So how amazing is all of that? So we're going to get into a little bit of that when he joins me here in a minute. Now, Kenny and I, we start off by talking about what else? The Ryder Cup. I got to get Kenny's thoughts on what that's like, because speaking of putting, the European team always puts the eyes out of the ball, which is the main reason why we keep losing these things. So we'll talk about that. We'll also touch on why he thinks Bethpage Black was horribly set up. Now, that's not just a hot take by Kenny, because guess what? Keegan Bradley said the same thing. He also makes a case for who the next U.S. captain should be. And then we go back and discuss some of the extreme conditions that he played in when he won a couple of those tournaments back out on the PGA Tour. So you're really going to love Kenny. He's a great guy. He joins me first. Following him is going to be Darren Davis. Now, Darren came highly recommended to me by one of his peers at Old Florida Golf Club, their 30-year director of instruction, Tom Wildenhouse. And you guys know how much I love Wildy. And if Wildy says, hey, you need to talk to this guy, well, I'm going to talk to that guy. And he told me that about Darren. Now, looking back into Darren's career, he studied agronomy at Penn State. He did an apprenticeship at Augusta National. How impressive is that? So, you know, we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then since Old Florida is down there in Naples, and he's been down there for 33 years, he's weathered several hurricanes over that time. So we get into how a superintendent and his staff deal with the aftermath of hurricanes and the destruction that they leave behind. Can you imagine, on a personal level, dealing with the destruction to your personal property, what's happened to your neighbors, your neighborhood, the community, and then when you come into work and find your course is under a foot or two of water, trees are down, debris is everywhere. Plus the everyday stress of being at a golf course in South Florida. You guys know about the heat and the afternoon thunder boomers that they deal with every day. How does the superintendent and his staff deal with all of those things and then still make a world-class golf course? You'll hear Darren's thoughts on all of those things when he joins me about a half an hour from now. Then be sure to come back for part 2, because I'm joined by Oakmont's curator of collections, David Moore. He makes a return visit with me, and you know how fantastic it was the first time around. Now, he's co-authored a wonderful book titled Battling the Church Pews, The History of Golf's Premier Events in Western Pennsylvania. Now, Volume 2 of that book has just been released with 5 new chapters, which you can go out and get on Amazon.com. David shares what's in the new chapters that he wrote. Then we also look back at Ben Hogan's Triple Crown season of 1953. We talk about how difficult Oakmont played at this year's U.S. Open. Plus, he shares his insights on some of the other great Pittsburgh area courses that he's been a part of and out and played, like Fox Chapel, which hosted last year's U.S. Senior Women's Open. And look, David is just one of the great guys in our game. Tons of great stories. So like I say, please be sure to come back and press play on part 2 of this episode. But as always, thank you so much for being here and taking the journey with me again this week. All right, but before we continue and get into the rest of the show, I want to start off by giving a shout out to my great friends over at the Pittsburgh Tribune-Review. TribLive.com is the leading news website for Western Pennsylvania with news around the clock. Pittsburgh pro sports coverage, a high school sports network, a podcast network, which you can find next on the T on. So go out and bookmark TribLive.com or download the Trip Live app for free and stay up to date with all the news in Western Pennsylvania and this show. I also want to talk about our friends over at the Pittsburgh Brewing Company and Iron City Beer, a brand that I have loved my whole life and started drinking when I was 21 years old, of course. Whether you're a hacker or a scratcher, the secret to a successful day on the links is knowing when it's time to grab an iron, even if that means keeping it in the bag till the 19th hole. If it's been a while since you've reached for Pittsburgh staple beer, it's time to revisit Iron City. Thanks to their incredible new facility in Creighton, the best-tasting Iron City beer ever made is now available at a course near you. Iron City pairs well with any lie and sky and serves as a friendly reminder that there's always next round. Iron City Beer, best enjoyed while enjoying life. And this year, get ready to experience a game like never before at the Keep, the brand new Bill Bergen and Reese Jones co-designed course at Macklemore. Nestled high atop Lookout Mountain, the Keep offers breathtaking vistas that are made even more spectacular as the autumn colors paint the landscape in rich hues of red, orange, and gold. With its challenging layout and awe-inspiring views, every round here is an unforgettable adventure. Whether you're taking on the signature holes or just soaking in the scenery, the Keep is where your best golf meets nature's finest backdrop. So grab your clubs and join us up at Macklemore. The Keep is open for preview play, and it's waiting for you. All right, now back in Next on the Tee with me is former PGA Tour pro and short game guru Kenny Knox. Kenny has been a wonderful friend of this show for over 11 years now. This is the 8th time that I've had the privilege of spending some time with him. Let me remind you about his background. He's from Columbus, Georgia, which is about 2 hours southwest of Atlanta, right there on the Alabama border. Played his college golf at Florida State, where he was an All-American his senior season. He won the 1977 Southeastern Amateur Championship. He won 3 times out on the PGA Tour at the 1986 Honda Classic, the 1987 Hardee's Golf Classic, and the 1990 Buick Southern Open. He is also one of the best putters of all time. In 1989, he set 3 putting records at the Heritage Classic. He had 8 putts over 9 holes, 18 putts for 18 holes, and 93 putts over 72 holes. He is currently one of the top instructors and fitters in our game. You can find him now down in Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida. Plus, he's got his own line of wedgers and putters that you need to go check out online at KennyKnoxGolf.com. And I'm very honored he is back with me again this week here on Next on the Tee. Hey, Kenny, thanks for coming back on the show.
Great to be with you, Chris. Thank you for that intro.
Kenny, I want to start off by talking about the Ryder Cup. Here we are on the heels of it. I want to get your thoughts. What'd you think about what you saw?
I was hoping you wouldn't ask me that. It was a tough first 2 days for sure, but I think there's a lot of things that contribute to that fact. And one is the golf course setup, I think. I think it was horribly set up for the Americans, which I think are better ball strikers. And also the greens. I know it rained on Thursday, but the greens stayed wet all week, and they were not as fast as they should have been, except they were in reverse when they were backing off the green. So if you're a good ball flighter, like most of the Europeans are, where they're able to hit the ball down in the wind when they play a lot in Europe, then you may have had an advantage. But I don't think we had any advantages for sure on that golf course. Could have if the golf course had been set up better. I think we had a better team top to bottom. We proved that on Sunday. We had better players, but somehow the Europeans come together and they form better as a team, and they play better for one another, and they just make the most incredible golf shots that you hardly ever see during the year. When they got to make a putt, they might not be making them, but during the Ryder Cup, those things are gimmies.
So, Kenny, how can the course be set up horribly for the U.S. team? I mean, it's on home soil. We know Bethpage Black. They've played it a bunch of times. We had years to get prepared to set it up to the advantage of the American players. How did we miss that?
Well, I think the PGA goes. I hate to say it. I think they go for the cash. I think they go to Bethpage because they know they're going to get 50,000 people every day, whether we're winning or losing. And we know we're going to get a rowdy crowd, which is going to try to produce a good television audience, and which a good television audience gives you a high commercial product. So there's a lot of commercials involved in it. If highly recommend you DVR your Ryder Cups in the future, so you don't have to watch all those commercials. But in my opinion, I don't think that was the right golf course for our players, and also the right crowd for our players because our players are not used to getting all that excited and fired up and fist pumping and doing all that, and neither are the Europeans for that matter. But I think we took us pretty much out of our element. Our best player, number one player in the world, was very uncomfortable with that atmosphere. You could just tell he was not at all comfortable having to try to fire up the crowd. And you shouldn't have had to fire it up except for the fact that we were losing. So that was the hard part.
Kenny, like I mentioned in your intro, you're one of the all-time great putters. It seems like Ryder Cups always come down to who putts it better. And it always feels like it's the European team that does. How can our guys be better putters? Is that something that they don't focus enough on? Or do we need a designated putter? Do we need you as a designated putter for our guys out there? Because we are just not rolling it the way those guys do.
Well, after all that said, we still could have won it. We lost by 2 points, which was kind of a gimme with Sam Burns 3-putting the 18th hole. That would have been even closer. But I would, if we got 6 picks, I'd be picking putters. They're always trying to pick ball strikers, and the ball strikers can hit the greens, but they're not making the putts. What good is that? The year I had such a good year of putting, I also led the tour in birdies that year until the final tour championship. I finished second in the birdies category that year, and not hitting that many greens. You got to have a guy that can chip and putt. Now those greens were very easy to chip and putt on. Because they were soft. So the chipping really made a big difference, I think, as well. Not having firm greens and not having more difficult chip shots out of that hay around the greens. The rough around the greens were I thought that was ideal setup. But it made it easy when the greens were so receptive and the ball was just stopping and checking up.
Kenny, to your point a moment ago, with all the data that we have now out there, it would seem like instead of looking at the point standings when it comes down to the captain's pick, that maybe they need to be looking at the guys that are leading the tour around the top of shots gained putting and shots gained around the green. Forget where they finished out. If they finished 7th, 8th, 9th in the points, go get yourself guys that are good in the short game.
You better believe it. If you're going to get 6 picks, I'm kind of like Tom Watson, though. I think you should earn your way on the team. And a lot of these 6 picks, I don't know if Azinger started that or not, but I think he definitely made a big difference. I think he got 4 picks. But 6 picks, you got a guy. I want the guy that's playing hot. I want the guy that have earned their way, and then the 2 picks are the ones that are playing the hottest. I thought they should have played Ben Griffin more. He proved in the individual that he could win, and he also proved that he could make some putts. He missed very few putts. Yes, he's a rookie, but he didn't get many chances. They put him out there one morning, I think, or one afternoon, the first afternoon, and then they shut him down. And then he played the final match, and he made the putts he needed to make to win that match. So, yes, I think statistics would be a high on my category. It just depends on what you can do. If you got 6 picks, man, I'd be going with the guys that making all the birdies and the guys that know how to putt. Sam Burns, number 1 putter on tour. But he's uncomfortable on those greens because the other guys are making putts too. So it was just difficult.
Kenny, who would you like to see be the captain next go around?
Well, I think Brandon Chambly, had some good points as far as the next captain. You're never going to deny someone like Tiger Woods. I hope he's captain at some point. But if you look at Tiger Woods' record in the Ryder Cup, he was, I believe it was 11-23-3, or no, it was 13-21-3, I believe. So he didn't have a very good record. Obviously, Scotty Scheffler didn't have a good record at 2-6. But I'm going to look at a guy like Chambly said, Justin Leonard, who's won, 2 major championships and was one of the, he knew how to win tournaments. He knew how to win Ryder Cup matches, and he played a lot of matches. He's also proven that he's a great vice captain. He knows how to put a team together. He knows how to keep a team together. He pays attention to detail. I thought Keegan Bradley, I think that's the biggest mistake we made was picking Keegan Bradley early and then not giving him a chance to play his way on the team. He did play his way on the team, in my opinion, and he should have been on the team, and we would have won the Ryder Cup if he'd have been on the team, in my opinion, because he's a great ball striker, and he's got that passion, and he's from that area. He was a perfect pick to pick himself, but that was the hardest thing in the world to do is leave someone like Ben Griffin out who, was in the top 10 on the points list. So Justin Leonard, great pick, I think, for the next Ryder Cup captain. There's a few others that I think would fill the bill. And you have to look at your vice captains also. Has some really good vice captains in there. But I like the guys that have won the major championships. I like that theme. It used to be if you won the PGA, you were almost an automatic Ryder Cup captain pick. But now Fred Couples was another guy that, won a couple Masters. He knows how to win. He's in the Hall of Fame. He knows how to win. He knows how to win team championships. He was one of the all-time great, America against the world, the President's Cup. I mean, he was a great captain in that. And he never got to be the captain of the Ryder Cup. And it's obviously too late for Larry Nelson to get to be a Ryder Cup captain. But, those guys were all great picks. I think Keegan Bradley was a great pick. I think he admits he made a mistake on the course setup. But other than that, I thought he was a great pick as well. But the only problem is he should have been playing the tournament.
Kenny, I want to look back at your playing career, and you were always known for your tenacity to get out on tour because you went to Q school in 1978. You battled your way through it a number of times, got through it finally in 1981. Talk about your focus, your desire, and your tenacity to get through Q school and make your way out on tour.
Well, it took me 3.5 years to get out onto the tour, but that's not three tour schools. That was 7 tour schools. We used to play every 6 months. We played tour school back then, and there were very limited spots as well. So on my 7th try, I made it, went out, played miserably. I think I made $7,000 the first year on tour. Lost my tour status. Played the TPS tour. Didn't have my had the Monday qualifying that tour. Ended up finishing 7th on the money list on the TPS tour. So gained the confidence that I needed to get back on the tour. Got through tour school, and played a little bit better, but not good enough. In 85, I think I made like $17,000. And and then it came around where I had to keep making it through tour school. I missed it 1 year, so I sat out another year. And then 1986 came around, and I was in the 150 on the money list the previous year, 1985, but not good enough to have many starts. My sponsors dropped me. And so I did not play anything on the West Coast. Waited for the tour to come back to Florida. Went down to the Honda Classic. Monday qualified and led the tournament the first 2 rounds with 66-71. The wins came on Saturday. I shot a smooth 80, 38-42, and fell from first place to 4th place because of the weather. The weather was so horrendous that day. The average score was 79.2. So I didn't lose that much ground really in the tournament, even though I shot 80. And then the final round, I came out birdieing 3, 4, 5 and got going pretty good. Made a great save on 7 after I had a plug line in the bunker and hit the ball through the green in the water. I had to drop it in the bunker and made the bunker shot for the greatest bogey ever made in that situation. And then went on to win the golf tournament with 1 shot after 3-putt the 18th hole when my knees were knocking. So won the tournament and had 6 good years on the PGA Tour, 24th on the money list that year, and never finished out of the top 75 for 6 years. And then had something I couldn't overcome when I hurt my back, Chris, in 1992. Early in the year, I hurt my back in Atlanta and never recovered from that. Changed my golf swing and was never able to recover and just kind of got beat up the rest of my career. But I'll never forget those 6 years because they were the best of my life.
All right, so there's a lot to unpack there, Kenny. I want to go back to the Q school experience for a minute because I've talked to several of your peers, and they've talked about how the pressure to get through Q school was greater than any pressure they faced, regardless of coming down the stretch in a PGA Tour event or playing in a major. Was it that way for you? Was the pressure so great to try to get through all of that? Was it more than any other pressure that you ever faced?
Well, you know why it's the most pressure? Because you haven't proven yourself yet. And so that's what I always said. Sometimes it's harder to make a cut than it is to win a tournament. Because when you're winning a tournament, you're playing your best golf. When you're trying to make a cut, you're trying to figure things out. Now, in tour school, you better have your game together. You got guys going to fight you tooth and nail, and that golf course is always going to be set up tough. So I finally learned how to make it through tour school. But I'll tell you one quick story. I had my wife on the bag out in Palm Springs, and the wind was blowing horribly out there. I had it made pretty easily. I four putted my 17th hole, the final round, and went to 18, and the pin was tucked front right, and hit a perfect drive. Had 9-iron in there and hit the most beautiful shot. And the wind hit it, and it ball went right in the water, right on line with the pin. And so on the way from my second shot to the drop area, my wife was crying the whole way, pouring down. And now you're talking about pressure, Chris. And I was playing with Skeeter Heath, and I got the ball up and down, made an 8-footer for a 5 on the hole, and got my tour card. But that's what you want to call. He said that's the greatest bogey you've ever seen in his life, with my wife crying on the bag.
And Kenny, one other thing on the 86 Honda Classic, because you became the first player ever to win a tournament from being a Monday qualifier, and you were also the first player ever to shoot an 80 during a tournament round and still win. To me, those are two huge accomplishments for the time and even at this time.
Yeah, we used to have Monday qualifying. When I first came out on tour, we had Monday. We'd have 100 guys out there Monday qualifying that had their tour cards, but they didn't finish in the top 60 in the previous tournament. So they didn't make the cut in the previous tournament. So we had a lot of PGA guys, a lot of great teachers, Jim McLean, a lot of really, really good players that went on to be great teachers and things like that. So we had really a tough road to hoe in the Monday qualifiers. So Jeff Mitchell actually won a tournament, the Phoenix Open, out of a Monday qualifier before the all-exempt tour of the top 125 on the money list. But I was the first guy to do it in the all-exempt tour, and I was not on the tour at that time. So I came off the mini tours, Monday qualified, and won the golf tournament. But I had a little experience on the tour, but nothing like a lot of these other guys. And then later, that kind of set the tone because later that year, Fred Wadsworth won the 1986 Buick Southern Open as a Monday qualifier. And then there's been 4 or 5 other guys that have done it since then that have gone on to be really good players on the tour.
Kenny, you were in the mix at the 1991 PGA Championship. That tournament was where we all got introduced to John Daly. You were tied for the lead after the first round, tied with Craig Stadler in second, 3 back at Daly going into the final round. What do you remember about that week?
Well, I'll never forget that. I actually just pulled it up the other day and watched it again on YouTube. It's just kind of fun to watch, but I was disappointed because all they showed was Daly, and then they showed my back. So, but it was worth it. He was a phenom. The way he played that day was like nobody I've ever seen play golf. Until he double bogeyed the 17th hole, I actually started counting the shots and said, "Man, I may still have a chance to win this." And if he can make an 8 on this last hole, I birdied. I think I got a chance. And so he piped it down the middle at 18. But he was fun to watch. It was like playing 2 onesomes. I would hit, and then he'd hit, and then I'd see him at way up in front of me, waiting on me to hit my second shot. I was hitting driver into the par 5s, and he was hitting 7-irons into the par 5s. But just a phenom, great player, had a great week, chipping the ball, bunker play, everything he did, everything spectacular that week, and just had all the confidence in the world, and played like he was like there was no tomorrow, like he had nothing to lose. He didn't back off a bit, and I think that fed for his entire career. He was just going to play hard all the way along. They called him grip it and rip it. And that's exactly what he did. and boy, he could make those putts, like most people be sweating over him, and he'd just knock them right in the back until that next to last hole, that 72-hole tournament. And so that was not unusual to do, but he had a big cushion. Bruce Litchfield slipped in there with a birdie on 18, got second place. And of course, I bogeyed. I missed a very short putt on 18, trying to get out of his way to finish fourth place. Jim Gallagher slipped ahead of me, so I finished fourth that week, which is a great week for me in a major championship. It was my best major finish. I had several top tens in majors, and that was definitely the highlight of my career, not winning the tournament.
And you opened that week with a 67, but you mentioned bad weather earlier, and you had bad weather that week. I read that a spectator was actually struck by lightning and tragically died that day, which happened to be the second time that year that a spectator was struck and killed by lightning at a major. 2 months earlier at the U.S. Open at Hazeltine, 6 people were struck. Another one passed away there. Were you on the course in the middle of either one of those dangerous situations?
No, I was not. I actually think that happened on Wednesday. I'm pretty sure it happened on Wednesday. There's no pro-am in the major championships. So I believe it happened on Wednesday during the practice round. And very unfortunate that happened. We did have bad weather, but the weather wasn't horrible. I came out with 67. I remember I made a 4-iron on a par 4 on the backside, like number 12, I think. I had a really good round that day. It was a great round. But to John Daly's credit, just to give him some more credit, he donated a huge portion of his check that week to the family of the man that lost his life to lightning. And so I want to give John Daly a lot of credit for that. He was a very charitable person, and a lot of people, he's misunderstood in a lot of ways, but he has a lot of heart and a lot of love for humanity.
He was the 9th alternate that week. Did you ever give the other 8 guys ahead of him that could make it a hard time? Because if just one of those guys shows up, you might have won a major.
He actually was more down the list than that, because there were several guys that pulled out. They just didn't even want to go. But they said it was a 9th, starting the week. But several guys pulled out before the week started, and yeah, I give Nick Price a little hard time because Nick and Sue, she had to give birth to that baby, dadgummit. But it would have been tough to win that tournament either way. But I think Daly was he was a man on a mission, and he was hard to beat that week. I was used to going up, head to head with the best players in the world, but this guy was new and fresh, and he had a fire about him, and he was on fire, especially on that Sunday.
Kenny, I want to switch gears a little bit. I want to get some playing lessons from you for our listeners. And most of us, when we go to the range, we spend the majority of the time hitting our drivers because chicks dig the long ball. But like we talked about with the Ryder Cup, a lot of times the thing that's going to make the difference for us when we're trying to potentially break a milestone score, break 100, break 90, break 80, whatever it is, the majority of the game is played from 100 yards in. Are we doing things backwards where we're spending too much time for the average guy out there hitting driver and your longer irons and woods and things of that nature on the range instead of spending the majority of the time over in the short game area?
Absolutely. I grew up in Columbus, Georgia. It's very well known for really great golfers throughout the years, amateur golfers mostly that were just Hall of Famers in the state of Georgia and things. But also some really good players, Hugh Royer. But at our club, when I was at Columbus Country Club, the juniors could not play unless you had a 10 handicap or less. And of course, I had a 10 handicap when I was 11 years old. So I could play, but all my friends couldn't play. But I would go out to the practice range, and I would just work on my short game. That's where I really learned how to use my imagination. My whole family were pool players. I had professional pool players in my family. And so we learned how to use our imagination shooting pool. And so I took that experience to the golf course, and I would learn how to hit chip shots. And I attribute a lot of my short game prowess also to the golf course that I grew up on, because the greens were almost like push-up greens, a really old Tillinghast golf course. So if you hit over the green, you couldn't just fly, and they were very small. You couldn't just flop a sandwich on the green and hope it would hold the green, because they were sloped from back to front. So you'd have to bump that ball into the hill And I got really good at using my 7-iron and different clubs, bumping into the mounds and getting up on the green and letting the ball trickle out to the hole. So I learned a lot that way. But you can't do that if you're hitting your driver all day on the range, right?
Right.
So also, the putting clock, man, we'd have 30 kids out there because of the golf course I grew up at. We'd have 30 kids out there on Saturday mornings, and it was so much fun. In the summertime, we had them out there every day. And so we'd have little golf tournaments, but we all be on the putting clock before the tee times, and then we go out with a barefoot in the dew, and play 18 holes, get in, then we'd have another putting tournament. Everybody collect their quarters. Of course, I made a few more than most of them, but it was a lot of fun. It was a great way to learn how to play golf, but it was primarily learn how to putt and chip, get the ball up and down for par. And when I look at my career, and I led the tour that year in 1991 in birdies, well, guess what? I was probably about 120th, 125th in greens and regulation that year. And then people said, well, how in the world did you have so few putts? I said, because I was a great chipper. And I would just always go at the flag. I didn't care what the flag was. I would always go at the flag because I knew I could get the ball up and down. So I didn't hit that many greens, but I could definitely get the ball up and down. And I made a lot of birdies, Chris.
Kenny, on your website, KennyKnoxGolf.com, you mentioned that 85% of golfers can't aim their putter right and 90% can't get the ball to roll soon enough. Talk about what you mean by that and how we can get better at it.
Well, that's one thing I do with my putting company is I really specialize in fitting, and it's all about aiming. You see less and less putters in the pro shops nowadays because everybody's getting fit for their putters. So you go to these Dick's or you go to the PGA Tour store, you go to these different fitting outlets, and you get fit for your putters, and that's what I recommend you do. But what I was doing and what I was trying to specialize in was aim. Chris, there's only 3 things in putting you really have to think about. And what's the most important? It's alignment. You have to learn how to line up to the ball correctly, line up to your intended target correctly. If you can do that, then if you have good mechanics, which is the second thing, so alignment, mechanics, and then the third thing is trust. So if you got really good alignment, you're going to start trusting that you're going to make the putt. And then if you got really good alignment and you got really good mechanics, then you're going to believe you're going to make the putt. And whether it's a 36 handicapper that I'm giving a lesson to, or 10 handicapper, or a tour player, the first question I always ask is, are you trying to make that putt? And everybody looks at me like I have 2 heads and say, of course I'm trying to make the putt. I said, well, that's where you're going wrong. Never try to make a putt. Believe you're going to make every putt. Learn how to line up. Learn good mechanics, good sound fundamentals, good mechanics. Learn how to rock your shoulders, use your arms, hands, putter head as one unit, and believe you're going to make the putt. If you do that, you hardly ever have to worry about your speed or anything because you don't ever want to have to make compensations in your stroke. And that's what you do. When's the last time you went to brush your teeth? You had to think about it. You don't. In putting, if you practice enough, you don't have to think about it. Learn how to line up and don't think about it. Just trust your mechanics.
Kenny, I know you and Mr. Nicklaus are very good friends, and that's one of the things that he's always talked about, right? He never missed a putt in his mind, the whole belief trust thing.
Yes, that is absolutely true. He was standing on the putt until he knew he was going to make it. And that's the mental side of the game. That's what he and Tiger Woods, and I believe Scotty Scheffler was there too. That's what they have that the many other players that came before them and after them, they're not in that league. But I believe Scotty's on this way. I believe he's certainly built the right foundation to have that mental capacity that he can block things out. I mean, if Scotty could putt like Tiger and Jack, he would win every tournament.
Right. Kenny, one more before I let you go. And as you talk about putters, there are so many different varieties of putters available out on the market now, different heads and shafts and bends and all that sort of thing. How do we go about learning and understanding what the makeup is of the best putter for us?
Well, you can go to my website and learn because what you're going to learn is the hosel configuration makes it different on how you line up. You may have it, and Jack Nicklaus is one of the few people that I tested for alignment, and no matter what hosel configuration I put in his hand, he lined it up perfect. So that tells you exactly why he was such a good putter, right? And so, but only 5% probably line it up perfect no matter what the hosel configuration is. So you need to learn how to line the putter up. That's the biggest thing. But we have basically a straight in shaft, you have an offset shaft, you have a plumber's neck, and you have a double bend shaft. So those are basically your 4 different hosel configurations. And depending on whether they go in the heel of the head or the middle of the putter head, determines whether they're face balanced or a toe down or 3/4. So that makes a big, because if your putter's toe down, you're going to have toe drag through the ball. So you have to be releasing your hands properly and timing the putter correctly, so it would square up an impact to get the ball started on the appropriate line. Whereas these face balance putters and these new lab putters are designed to keep the face from moving around at all. So you have to have more of a square to square type stroke where the putter face stays square back and square at impact and square through the impact hitting zone. So you're not really manipulating the putter at all. But I like to teach more of a rotational type on the arc type putting stroke, because I believe the putter should go back and open up about 1 degree every inch. If you have a 6-inch back, then your putter face is going to be 6 inches open. And then as you come through the ball, your putter face squares up to 0 at impact, and then it releases 1 degree every inch. So on that putting arc is a great way to learn how to stroke the putt. Now, if you want to use a lab putter, you can't putt on that putting arc. It doesn't help you. You need to be on a board, a straight board, to teach you how to go straight back and straight through and keep that putter face square. But you don't have to manipulate with that lab putter. And that's why all the tour players are going to that putter, because they're learning that they could just have they can use their shoulders, but they're not using an arc on their stroke. They're having a straight back and straight through stroke. So they just learn that. That's why they use that line on that ball too. They line that ball up in their intended target, and then all they have to do is go straight back and straight through. And that putter does it. It doesn't vary at impact. It just stays square at impact.
Kenny, before I let you go, you've got so much great content out on your website. Remind our listeners all the things you have available there, all the great videos that you also have available, and how they can follow you both there and on social media.
Yes, thank you. Well, obviously, you can go to the putter store and buy putters and wedges. They're my record series putters primarily, my 8 putts for 9 holes, my 18 putts for 18 holes, and 93 putts for 72 holes. And then I have some mallets that are the heel shafted and center shafted that you can look at as well, that are carbon steel heads. And then my wedges are very nice wedges that have the A grind on them, which is pretty popular these days. But that's what you want to look at. But also, if you want to learn how to putt, go to my videos, watch my videos on how to putt. And if you go to the bottom of the home page, you'll see that I line up if you scroll on my picture, you'll see a railroad track and you'll see the putting arc robot. And so when you do that, then you'll know that you're supposed to line your feet up square to your intended target, your feet, hips, and shoulders, and the putter face square to your target. And then if you want to see the putting arc robot, you'll see the arc your putter should go back on the arc, back and through. And so those are my 2 main suggestions on how to learn how to putt. But on the videos, you can learn short game. You can learn every short wedge shot and also bunker shots as well, and obviously putting. So I recommend you go to my videos, and you can also discover which putter you should be using according to your stroke as well.
Kenny, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day to come back and be a part of the show. It's always a privilege to get to spend some time with you. I hope you'll come back and join me again soon.
Anytime, Chris. But I have made one change. I am living in Ponte Vedra Beach now.
Oh, look at you.
When I do teach golf, I teach across the street over at TPC Stadium. So anybody's welcome to get on my website, sign up for lessons if you want to as well.
Kenny, take care, my friend. All the best to you and your family. I look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Thanks so much, Chris. Have a great one.
Thanks. You too, Kenny. That's the great Kenny Knox, folks. Alignment, mechanics, and trust. Love that. Wrote that down. I'm going to keep that with me. And as I get back and get healthy again with this ankle, the first place I'm going to start, obviously, you got to kind of go backwards, right? Start with putting, then get into the short game and work my way back to the tee as I get strength back in this whole right leg thing. But alignment, mechanics, trust. Those are the three things we need to do in order to become better putters. And on top of that, go to KennyKnoxGolf.com. Look at all of Kenny's videos that he's got available for you there. And that's awesome now that he's giving you an opportunity to figure out of all these different variations and choices that we have in putters, which one is the right one for you. So I love that piece. Kenny has been, like I said, a wonderful friend for many years. He goes back 11 years was the first time. 2014 was the first time he joined me on the show. This is, like I said at the top, the 8th time I've had the privilege to spend some time with him. Tells you what a great guy he is. You learned that again throughout the course of the conversation, his stories, and the great things he's doing now as an instructor. Hopefully we get the privilege of catching up with Kenny a little bit later on in the year as well. Coming up next is one of the great superintendents in our game, a guy who's been down at Old Florida Golf Club for 33 years now, and that is Darren Davis. Before I bring Darren into the show, I want to remind you about our friends over at On Point Golf and their out-of-this-world On Point Golf Ball Marker. And if you don't have one, folks, you really need to go check it out at onpointgolf.us. Get the #1 ball marker in the game of golf. On Point is the only three-dimensional ball marker out there, with alignment technology and a removable coin that is approved to use according to the rules of golf. As you know, putting is all about line and pace. Mark your ball with On Point, engage with your three-dimensional ball marker, and have more confidence in your line, execute the putt, and you're going to lower your scores. Do what the likes of Jim Furyk, PGA professionals, and amateurs alike are doing now. They use the #1 ball marker in golf and they lower their scores. You know Ken Duke and Thongchai JD. They won for the first time on the PGA Tour in 2023, and they were using an on-point ball marker. Get yours at onpointgolf.us and make more putts. And oh, by the way, you can also customize the removable coin for any club, event, or corporate outing. They make really great tee gifts and custom products. That's also going to help lower your score. I use on-point ball markers. Mine is black and gold, 3D black golf ball with a gold line down the middle to help me line up my putts. It's like having a 15th club in my bag. It's helped my game. Why wouldn't you let it help yours? Again, onpointgolf.us. See what I'm talking about. Order yours today. I also want to remind you about our wonderful friends over at Squares Golf.
So Nick here. What if there was a golf shoe embraced by hundreds of thousands of golfers, celebrated for its stability, comfort and distance? What if this shoe earned the title of most technologically advanced golf shoe by Sports Illustrated? And what if the company behind that shoe spent the last year perfecting a brand new category of golf footwear? Well, the what if is here. Introducing the all-new Pro S2 LT by Squares, a new class all of its own, the perfect blend of lightweight comfort and stable performance. You'll notice the difference. Change your shoes, change your game. Squares.
I also want to give a special shout out to our wonderful friends over at the Pittsburgh Brewing Company. Their pumpkin ale is back, folks. It's the #1 selling pumpkin beer in Western Pennsylvania, and incredibly popular everywhere their beer is sold. Why? Because it's everything you love about beer, disguised as everything you love about homemade pumpkin pie. Go online to pittsburghbrewing.com to check that one out. Plus, their other great beers, including the Blockhouse Blueberry Wheat, along with my family's favorites, Iron City and Icy Light, of course. Check all of that out and everything else they've got going on this fall by going online to pittsburghbrewing.com. Now making his next On the Tee debut with me is Old Florida Golf Club Superintendent Darren Davis. Darren has been at Old Florida for 33 years this month. Prior to that, he was the assistant superintendent at the Loxahatchee Club. He also did an apprenticeship at Augusta National, which we'll talk about here in a minute. Going back to his college days, he earned his Bachelor of Arts degree at Florida Gulf Coast University, and then his certification in turfgrass management and agronomy at Penn State. He came highly recommended by a wonderful friend of this show and one of his peers there at Old Florida, Tom Wildenhouse, and I'm honored to have him with me this week here on Next on the Tee. Hey, Darren, thanks for coming on the show.
Chris, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor and a privilege. You've had some icons in this industry, so I feel very honored to be asked to be a part of your show. Thank you.
Thank you. So speaking of icons, you got a couple relationships here that with two of them on the show. First, I want to start with Kenny Knox. You were telling me prior to the show that you were actually up in North Florida not that long ago and saw Kenny out on the golf course.
I did. One of my favorite courses, I have many in Tallahassee, but Seminole Legacy was recently redone by Jack Nicklaus. And it's just phenomenal. That's the course I grew up playing back when it was, I think, $6 a round. That included the cart and the hot dog at the turn. And you played more on hard pan clay than you did grass. But now Superintendent Heath Booker was taking me around, and Kenny was finishing his round on the golf course. So I got to see him, and obviously I know him well from his days of playing, and it was a privilege to see him.
And you and Tom Wildenhouse have been working together for a long time there at Old Florida, and Wildy's a wonderful friend of this show and just a great human being. Talk about your relationship with him and getting to work together there.
Yeah, it's been great. I started September 2nd, 1992, and Tom was just shortly behind me. So we've had a lot of time together. It's truly been a privilege. He bleeds PGA, and I certainly bleed GCSAA. So that love of our professional associations, that love of everything we do, and trying to give back to the profession that has done so much for Tom and I, certainly unites us. Also uniting us is just our love for the golf course. And having built the golf course with one of your previous guests as well, Reese Jones, who was a dear, dear friend. It's been great to have really a family relationship with Tom, Reese Jones, the membership, and our wonderful board of directors and our club president, Mr. Tom Cook. So it's been a terrific run at Old Florida Golf Club.
And Darren, looking back to your early days with this show being available in my hometown of Pittsburgh on the Pittsburgh Tribune Review site, Penn State carries a lot of weight throughout the whole state of Pennsylvania on a lot of fronts. And it's also one of the top schools for turf management and agronomy. Talk about going up there and being a part of that program.
Oh boy, it's such a fond memory. I grew up in Tallahassee, Florida, went to Lincoln High School, and as I like to say, if you could pick a major in high school, mine would have been basketball. I was co-captain of my basketball team, obviously athletic, a big team sport guy. But when I finished school, I really had no idea what I was going to do. And my father was the first in his family to ever go to college. My mother was an educator, so not continuing school wasn't an option. So after an AA degree at Tallahassee Community College, started at FSU and was just totally lost. And very fortunate to have run into a guy on the campus my last day, and he said, "You need to get a job at this new golf course called Golden Eagle in Tallahassee." And it was special. Forrest Fessler was involved, just an incredible layout. And as soon as I strapped my boots on that first day at Golden Eagle, I knew it's what I wanted to do with my life. The smells, the sounds, just everything about being on the golf course. I had fallen in love, and I was definitely at a time where I was spiraling. So I needed this. And my boss at the time, Jeff Vietmeyer, then golf course superintendent, took a chance on me. And I had never didn't know what a golf course superintendent was. I played the game. So ended up, he was a Penn State grad, and I was blessed to get into Penn State my first year. And that was unique back then because it usually took you a couple of years to get in turf school. So I met some incredible friends that I still have to this day. One of my mentors, Dr. Joe Dewich, his last year was my last year at Penn State. And I have so many Dewich stories I could tell you, but Penn State certainly opened a lot of doors. One door was my internship at one of, I know, your favorite golf courses, Augusta National, and ended up doing a 6-month internship there while I was in between my first and second year. And again, blessed to have met some friends, wonderful people there. And as you know, it's a great industry. It's a very tight industry. So Penn State was good 2 years of my life.
You mentioned the apprenticeship you did at Augusta National. You were there helping them with preparations for the 1990 and 91 Masters. Talk about what your role was and what it was like to be a part of those two tournaments.
So the first one was as a 6-month internship. And this is, as you know, it's a long time ago. It's 35 years. And a lot has changed at Augusta National. But my first year at Augusta was Marsh Benson, then golf course superintendent's first year. So back then, we had an apartment just outside on Berkman's Road, so just outside of Berkman's Place now. And the club rented the apartment year round, so there was always 3 Penn State students that lived in that apartment. And for many, many, many years, the only superintendents that graduated Penn State that were at Augusta National. So fortunate to get a chance to intern there and live in that apartment. And we literally would drive our golf cart to the fence, jump the fence, and hit our apartment and work 7 days a week. And just an incredible time. You worked long hours, but it was a special place, opened a lot of doors, and I've enjoyed going back through the years and spending time there.
And Darren, do you feel pressure when you're working on Augusta National? I mean, first of all, it's obviously one of the most historic courses on the planet, but it's also one of the most meticulously manicured courses in the world when you're out there. Because when I've been out there, it's like there's not a blade of grass out of place. Everything is just perfect. Do you feel that pressure to make sure it stays like that when you're out there working on it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, all golf course superintendents take extreme pride in what they do, and Augusta's fortunate to have a lot of people on staff that are in the industry as they want to be a golf course superintendent. So you're surrounded by a lot of people that truly care and are passionate. And I can tell you one of my memories is I was working the Masters, and one of my greens that I cut every day was 14. And as you know, Augusta at 14, you have two huge mounds on 14, and you always everything had to be meticulous, and that the speed of every green is within 1 inch of each other. So the step meter would come after you had your assigned run and check the speed. You had to wait till Dr. Dewich and Dr. Brown came, and you were told whether you could go back in or stay out. And 14 was an original green at that time, so it had a little bit more growth. So one day I actually had cut it twice, like I was told, and waited and did the stemp, and too slow, cut it a third time. Well, at this point, I'm still waiting for the stemp reader reading, and in come the fans. So now all of a sudden I'm surrounded by hundreds, if not thousands of people. And I'm just a young kid waiting beside my greens mower, waiting for Dr. Dewich to tell me if I need to go again or not. He stamped it and he says, "Yep, one more time." At that point, there was no dew left on the ground, and you can't have a gap. You can't have a banana line or a skip. So, boy, the pressure I felt just mowing a green to try to keep straight lines and not make a mistake. It's a lot of pressure, but it's something that people still ask about, even though I've been gone for a long time. It's a special place.
And for all of us that have been privileged to walk that golf course during tournament week, the grass that the patrons walk on in the walk areas in between, like the areas of 8, 9, and 18, there's that big expansive area of just open field, open grass. And that grass is better than any fairway that I've ever played on. But
that's actually was originally the lower range. And I'm sure you've done your reading on Augusta and have the history. And it's neat that, and actually when I worked there, a couple of folks still would use that area as a lower range.
Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. It's and as you know, it's mainly a Bermuda grass golf. It is a Bermuda grass golf course that's overseeded just prior to the Masters. So no matter what's underground, that overseed just not a blade out of place, as you said.
I got to ask you, did you ever did they let you tee it up? Did you get to play?
I did. Yeah, I was fortunate. I worked 6 months as an internship, and I came back after school. Another great story, then golf course superintendent Marsh Benson had called me and said, "Darren, what are you doing after school?" And I said, "Well, Mr. Benson, I don't have a job yet. I'm looking still." But he said, "Well, Augusta National is a good place to do a job search." I said, "Yes, sir. That sounds great." And I said, "Well, look, I don't care what you paid me. You paid me $5.25 as an intern, so that works for me. But I'm graduating top of my class at Penn State," and he's a Penn State grad. And I said, "Marsh, how about a title?" He said, "Well, how does spray tech sound?" I said, "Oh, Marsh, that sounds great. That's wonderful." And I said, we're getting ready to hang up. And I said, "Well, Marsh, I got a problem. I don't have a place to live." He goes, "Well, that's all right. Come on back. You live on the par 3 house with Brad, who became superintendent for many, many, many years. Wonderful guy, just recently retired. But so I actually live behind number 1 on the par 3 course.
Wow.
So you would think I could sneak out and play quite a bit.
Yeah.
But you didn't do that. No, it was just something you never cross that line. But as an employee, you are allowed to play once a year. And so I was fortunate to have to play twice. And I guess I'm a 20 index. I love the game. Just teed it up last week at Shinnecock, had a round of my life. But at Augusta, my claim to fame, as I tell the story, is I hit number 13 and 2.
Wow. Okay.
And I just kind of stopped the story there because I hate to admit that I four-putted, but hitting it 2 was certainly special.
Yes, I bet. You mentioned Reese Jones, who is a wonderful friend of this show. He joined me just last week, and he co-designed Old Florida along with Greg Muirhead. 2017, they did some fairway and bunker reworking. Did you get to spend some time with Reese and Greg as they were doing the work?
Oh yeah, I mean they're dear friends. I was hired in September of '92, so I built the golf course. With Reese, of course, and Greg Muirhead as senior vice president. So I've been there the whole time, and we did a renovation in 2000, and recently did another renovation in 2021, where Greg came back on site twice, and we redefined the bunkers to get them back to the original design that Reese had. And they've been dear friends. My boss and Reese actually went to Yale together. So that's how Reese got involved with Old Florida. And he also did the course next door with us called Golf Club the Everglades. So yeah, Reese is a good friend. I just texted him today and told him I enjoyed his episode with you on this show, and that I was going to be on it tonight.
No, that's awesome. The hardest people, I feel like, Darren, to please at any golf course, particularly a private golf course, are the members. And you've been there at Old Florida for 33 years, so you're doing a great job pleasing your members. How do you do it?
Well, I think back to my first day at Penn State. As you said, I'm a graduate of Penn State. So when I started back in 1988, I had found my passion. And I'll make the story quick, but the first day of turf school, Dr. Joe Dewich, who had been there since the 60s, turf legend. He was the guy that developed pin cross, pin links, pin way, anything with a pin on it came from Dr. Dewich. So we all knew of him, and we were all intimidated by him. And he walked in the classroom that very first day, and this is back when the windows still cranked open with crank style arms, and they were open. And Dr. Dewich walks to the podium and puts his books down and didn't even look at us. It's the first day of school, and this guy's a legend. And so my fellow turf students and I are looking around each other. We had just kind of met each other in the last day or so, and going, "What's going on?" And Dr. Dewich walks to the board, and he draws a circle on the chalkboard. When I say chalkboard, yet me, I'm originally chalkboard. It's your chalk, we're dusty erasers, and he draws this circle. And then he eventually, it seems like it's 15 minutes. He eventually draws a triangle on the bottom. He eventually shades it in. He writes the word turf, and it looked like a piece of pie. We named it the Dewich pie. And what he wrote on that triangle was people, and on the other 90% he put turf. I'm sorry, I had that backwards. 90% people, 10% turf. So growing grass is really 10% of our job, and 90% is people. So as you know, Tom is a wonderful individual that gets along with people, and that's what's made Tom and I work so well together, is our relationship and our communication with our members, because it really is, growing grass is the easy part. It's working with your crew and getting along with your members that make you successful.
Just a couple more before I let you go, Darren. And you've lived through several hurricanes down there. Talk about everything that's involved with trying to save a course after a hurricane's devastation blows through.
It's been a challenge, and this year actually finally have a normal year after 3 hurricanes blowing through last year in this area, and it's really what makes golf course superintendents unique and special. We're problem solvers, so whatever happens, we just fix it. So hurricanes come in, trees go down. At Augusta National, they had a huge one right before the Masters a couple of years ago, and you just solve it. You rally, you come together as a team, and you get it done, and you fix it. So weather is really just a factor we deal with.
Darren, there are a couple of things that drive me crazy when I see them out on a golf course. The first is the person that pounds down on the ground on the tee of a par 3 and pounds it into a mound to use as a tee instead of sticking a peg in the ground or just putting it on the turf. The second is the person that doesn't fix their pitch mark, or when they drag their spikes along the green, they don't go back and tap that down. How do you deal with that? Is that just part of the deal as a superintendent? Or do you try to give some people, I don't know, quote unquote, educated about what they need to do on the golf course to keep it nice for everybody else?
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in communication. So I have a lot of social media accounts, website, Substack, Blogspot. So I believe that I want to give golfers the benefit of the doubt and just that they don't know. So I like to communicate, be proactive, explain what golf course superintendents do, how golfers can help. So you need to, I have to learn to not be frustrated by it because I'm very passionate about what I want to do. I mean, I love to present the members with a quality golf course. I mean, that's what makes it so exciting is creating something that golfers enjoy, and to hear someone, leave the golf course and say, wow, that was just a great experience. And that's what we're all about. And so, I don't just tolerate it, but I also don't become aggravated by it. And I just do my best to communicate what is the proper etiquette involved in the golf course.
Before I let you go, let our listeners know, how can they stay up to date with all the great things you're out there doing, Darren, whether it's on your Substack page, online, or on social media?
Well, I have a website, so it's my full name, Darren, 2 R's, E-N, middle initial J, Davis, GCS, an acronym for Golf Course Superintendent, gcs.com. And then all my social media is the same. I've branded myself across Facebook, Instagram, X, Substack, Blogspot. All of it's the same, Darren J. Davis, GCS. We'll get you to all of them.
Well, Darren, it's been great having you as part of the show. I hope this is the first of many visits we get to have with you because you're fantastic, my friend.
Oh, Chris, thank you so much for having me again. It's an honor and a privilege, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Take care. All the best to you and your family. We'll catch up soon.
Thank you, sir.
See you, Darren. That is a great Darren Davis. Darren J. Davis, GCS.com is his website. And like you say, you can find him there all over the web, whether it's on social media or Substack. Look, I mean, one of the great things that attracted me to both Tom Wildenhouse and Darren is the fact that, like he said with the piece of the pie, 90% people, 10% turf. That's this, to me, that is the secret sauce in just about everything. 90% is taking care of the people and making people feel welcome, valued, and then as a member that it's like their home. It's their home away from home. And I think both Darren and Tom do an outstanding job of that. They've been there 30 plus years. You don't stay in one place for that long without being great and great with the people. That's what gets you through life. That's what gets you to where you want to go in life. And they're both outstanding at what they do. And look, a guy that went to Penn State, first of all, as a guy from Pittsburgh, I have a great deal of affinity for everything Penn State. A guy who did his apprenticeship at Augusta National. You guys know that's my favorite place on the planet, where I want my wife to throw some ashes one day when I'm no longer here. And then to hear what he's doing down there and how he is taking Old Florida, which is one of the great courses in the entire state of Florida, and making it that way and keeping it that way and keeping it at the top of its game while he is at the top of his game. Doesn't get any better than that. So hopefully we get this privilege again with Darren. I thought he was fantastic making his next on the tee debut. I'm very excited that maybe we'll get an opportunity to have him back on the show again before too long. All right, my friends, it is time for me to put a bow on part one of this week's show. My sincere thanks again to Kenny Knox and Darren Davis for joining me. I hope you enjoyed those two segments as much as I did. Those guys are just fantastic. Kenny, like I said at the top, longtime friend of the show. Great to have Darren on for the first time. And like I said, I hope it's the first of many visits we get to spend with him. Now be sure to come back and press play on part two of this week's show featuring David Moore, like I said at the top. Now, as you guys know, David's fantastic, curator of collections at Oakmont Country Club, where we revisit the U.S. Open and how difficult Oakmont played. And then he also co-wrote a wonderful book that's out there available now in a second edition. Now, the title of the book, remember this, now, Battling the Church Pews, the History of Golf's Premier Events in Western Pennsylvania. Looks at a lot of the U.S. Opens that were played out there at Oakmont. David has written a couple of the 5 new chapters that are available. So you're going to want to get the second edition of the book. Amazon.com is where you're going to go get it. Here is where you're going to hear the stories from that book and from this year's U.S. Open. So be sure to check out David Moore in part 2 of this week's episode. Folks, I can't thank you enough, as I always say, for making Next on the Tee a part of your weekly golf content, for being here, part of Next on the Tee Nation, and for all of your wonderful support week in and week out. You guys are the greatest supporters in the history of podcasts, bar none. Until next time, hit 'em straight, my friends.
Thanks for joining Chris again this week on Next on the Tee. We hope you enjoyed the conversations as much as we did. Please share the show with your golf buddies and be sure to follow it on Trib Live or your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode. Thanks for pressing play and being part of the journey. We'll see you next week, right here, where the best minds in golf share their stories.